Okay, welcome. Settle in for a ride. We're taking a deep ride into the mind. We saved this movie for last because it's deep. Yeah, it's kind of designed to unravel the world as you know it. So I think the first time I saw it, it reminded me a little bit of I have never taken psychedelics, but I can only imagine what a psychedelic trip must be like an LSD trip or ayahuasca in South America. They use a lot of the shamans use ayahuasca, and they use these psychedelics to start to loosen the mind's grasp on what it thinks it knows and the world it thinks is real, and the ordering and the structure and the construct that the ego has built as if there's a continuous solid reality called time and space and planet Earth and the body, and they're all make-believe, but the mind has to be slowly convinced that what it thought it saw and what it thought it knew wasn't actually real. So, and this is the first time I've ever shown the movie to a group. So this will probably be one of our first, and maybe we'll make it up eventually. Perhaps something to talk, or something eventually to our Movie Watcher's Guide to Enlightenment. The title of tonight's movie was what drew me to see it not long ago. I happened to see the title. Everything, everything, everywhere, all at once. Uh, Everything, everywhere, all at once. That's Maria. That's how my face looked. I was looking. Ah, I went to see this movie, so I did take a trip to see this movie, and yeah, it's an experience. It's definitely an experience, and I've seen a lot of movies. It had depth, and it was unpredictable, and it was funny, and it was a ride. That's why I kind of compared it a bit to a psychedelic drug experience. And I have seen some movies that reminded me of that as well, but with the title, everything, everywhere, all at once, there's something that just resonates about that title. Like, I was just so high. I mean, even before I saw the movie, after I saw the movie, and I couldn't even remember the name of the title, but I could just feel the title. It kind of got into my heart, and I was giddy. I was just happy with the title. I couldn't even remember when they'd say, "What was the name of it?" I'd say, "What? Something about everything." It just was joyful, very, very joyful. Yeah. And that's what we want. We want that experience, and we want something that will kind of lead us and point us in that direction. That's the answer to our prayers. So I have been talking for quite a few years about simultaneous time, as opposed to linear time. And some people will say, what does that mean, simultaneous time? That seems to be like an oxymoron. It seems to be a contradiction in terms. Simultaneous and time, and simultaneous time is completely different from linear time. Even the movie we watched last night, Free Guy, when Buddy said, no, I'm helping a friend, and it's all here in this moment. I heard the gasp go around the room because everybody had a recognition like, oh my gosh, that's right. Even with all the wildness in free guy and all the technology, there was a very soft recognition of this moment is so precious. And that's really what I feel like this movie is going to help us move toward the experience of simultaneous time or the present moment. And I asked Jesus if there was anything from the Course that he would give us before we go on this journey. And he pointed me to workbook lesson 184. And the name of the lesson is, the title is, "The Name of God is My Inheritance." And I'm just going to read you the first 4 paragraphs. They're not really long paragraphs, but it kind of sets things up in the first 4 paragraphs, because you've heard me say, probably, if you've listened to my talks or watched the videos, you've heard me say quite a few times, it's a perceptual problem. It's not a financial problem, it's not a relationship problem, it's not a problem with Mother Earth or pollution or global warming. It's not a problem of you have ants in your house, or it's a perceptual problem. And sometimes people will say, what is that? And I say, well, it's important, because you have to first admit you have a perceptual problem before you can accept the correction. If you insist on thinking you know what your problems are and you can solve them on your own, then that's part of the perceptual problem. It's seeing problems as if they're specific and trying to handle them on a specific level. And that's what the human condition is all about. We know we wake up in the morning, and usually after some time, maybe after you get out of bed and you brush your teeth or something, the problems of the day start coming in as if they're needing attention. What's your list tell you need to do to survive and to make it on planet Earth? And so here's Jesus giving us 4 paragraphs that he's like reframing the problem. He's just saying, whatever you think your problems are, is not really your problems. And he's going to explain to us a little bit about what that perceptual problem is about. And I think that's helpful, because when we watch this movie, we'll have to have something in our mind to hold on to.
I saw the first hour, and I had to stop. I didn't even know where my head was.
Yeah, you were lost. Yeah, that's right. I'll give you a commentary. I always say with these kind of movies, I'm taking you on a magic carpet ride. Stay on the carpet. Do not leave the carpet. Keep your hands and your fingers inside the carpet, please. It's like one of these going to an amusement park. You don't want to have your arms and legs and hands outside during this movie. So here's what Jesus had to say. He says, and he starts it off with you. So he's speaking to our mind that is sleeping. You live by symbols. You have made up names for everything you see. Each one becomes a separate entity identified by its own name. By this you carve it out of unity. By this you designate its special attributes and set it off from other things by emphasizing space surrounding it. This space you lay between all things to which you give a different name, all happenings in terms of place and time, all bodies which are greeted by a name. This space you see as setting off all things from one another is the means by which the world's perception is achieved. You see something where nothing is, and see as well nothing where there is unity. A space between all things and you. Thus you think that you have given life in separation. by this split you think you are established as a unity which functions with an independent will. What are these names by which the world becomes a series of discrete events, of things ununified, of bodies kept apart, and holding bits of mind as separate awarenesses? You gave these names to them, establishing perception as you wished to have perception be. The nameless things were given names, and thus reality was given them as well. For what is named is given meaning and will then be seen as meaningful, a cause of true effect with consequences inherent in itself. This is the way reality is made by partial vision, purposefully set against the given truth. Its enemy is wholeness. It conceives of little things and looks upon them, and a lack of space, a sense of unity or vision that sees differently, become the threats which it must overcome, conflict with, and deny. So he's saying that when you feel afraid, this is the ego's fear of wholeness. He's saying you become so accustomed to pieces and parts and naming little things, but now you've adapted and you feel like the pieces and the parts and the separation is natural. And then what is the threat to this fragmented perception? It is wholeness. It is oneness. Oneness is the big threat. So if you study anything about like quantum physics, with the double slit experiment, very famous quantum physics experiment, and what they discovered in there was that the only thing that would seem to turn particles into waves and determine what was happening in the double slit experiment was that there was a sense of observation that made the difference. And that was very perplexing to scientists, because scientists study the empirical nature of the world. That's part of trying to learn about the world through the five senses. And when they saw that the main factor in the experiment was the observer, that was like very befuddling, very confusing, because, in science they don't talk about an observer because everything is the five senses. So they talk about the five senses and what the senses can perceive, but not something that observes the entire world. And so it was very, very befuddling to them. And then a lot of people who had hypothesized what is the building blocks of the material world, and then they got down with their microscopes to molecules, and then they got down to the atomic level, and then at the atomic level they find mostly space, but they find tiny, tiny nucleus and protons, and then they have these whirling little things called electrons going around them, but they mostly just found space. And then the next discovery was basically that atoms are not the smallest building blocks of the material world, but atoms are potentials. So now they're saying atoms aren't things. You're looking for the smallest thing, the smallest unit of material and its potentials. And then you get into the wacky world of quantum physics, where you have such a thing as superposition, where things just exist as potentials, and then when you observe something, you freeze it down into an actual thing, an actual person, place, symbol that Jesus was talking about. So that observer is basically the ego that determines the situations, the people, the places, events. Everything is a projection of the ego. And that observer, you could say, is like a private mind observing a private world, and that private mind has given every meaning in that private world. So if you talked about this world and you say, well, we have maybe 7.8 billion people, you have 7.8 private worlds, so to speak, or 7.8 universes going on. And that's why no two people see the same world, and no two people can seem to agree on everything, because they're private universes. They're, they're private, it's like the ego saying, this is the meaning I've given to it, and this is what it means. Don't argue with me. Don't give me opinions. This is the way my private universe is. You can imagine how difficult that is in interpersonal relationship when you have two private universes living under the same roof. That gets interesting, Then if you bring in the cats, well, Paulina and Gabrielle, what do you have, two cats? That's four private universes in one house. And it gets very interesting and spicy when that happens. But there aren't really 4 or 7.8 billion, or if you even considered other life forms and other galaxies and other universes, you could see that this sometimes is called the multiverse. Universe is like uni is one, and verse is song. So universe is one song, just one song. And Jesus says, yeah, it is one song, but for you, it's the forgotten song. You forgot that beautiful melody. You are a song, and you're in a song of gratitude with your Creator, and you just sing forever and ever and ever in a song of gratitude. That's what heaven is. It's just a song of gratitude of spirit, which is one. Even when we say creator and creation, that seems to be two words, but it's actually just one spirit, singing, kind of like the birds. If you're ever in more tropical settings, in the morning they just start singing and singing and singing, and they just love to sing. And what a melody it is just to stop everything and listen to the birds. So what it is when we talk about the multiverse, there's another movie also that's just out in the theaters, which is called Doctor Strange. And in the Marvel universe, Doctor Strange is always dealing with the multiverse. I think too, Facebook tried to do, didn't they come up with something? What was that? The metaverse. Oh, that sounds metaverse. the gigantic song, the metaverse. But the thing about it is that when we bring it down to human terms, we seem to have these individual lives, and what Jesus is saying is you believe in an individual will, but when God created you, God gave you free will, and free will really means perfect happiness. So basically, Jesus is telling us there is no free will in this world, because free will is heaven. Heaven is the state of creation. God created you as pure light, and in heaven, you are perfect. And in heaven, your will is free. We could say more, the dream world is imprisoned will. It's an arrogant stance of like, I can do it on my own. I don't need a creator. I don't need a guide. I will just use my learning, my past learning. I'll go exploring and discover, and I'll invent myself. And if I don't like what I've invented, I'll reinvent myself. And I'll keep reinventing myself until I get it right. Except it doesn't seem to work out, this inventing thing, No matter how many times you invent or reinvent yourself, there's not satisfaction. Like Mick Jagger and the Rolling Stones, I can't get no satisfaction. And so you might say that's what in the East they call reincarnation, when you keep trying it again and keep trying it again in time and space to find that eternal love and joy and satisfaction, contentment, happiness, bliss, and you keep attempting to find it in form, then that's what the metaverse seems to be. And the metaverse seems to be very, very big, but basically big is another concept in terms of time and space. It's just what we might call everything. And what Jesus is teaching us in this lesson 184 is that what you think of as people, places, things, discrete events are not really what they seem. Because whatever, even a person, you set it off, you give it a name, and then you surround it by time and space, and you think it's a reality. But it's not. You've just given meaning where there is no meaning. So when you say the first lesson of the Course, you could say, instead of just nothing I see means anything, you could say no thing I see means anything. Because in reality, there aren't things. One time I was in Australia many years ago, and I was sipping a water, and the water had a little bottle cap, a blue bottle cap. And so I took the blue bottle cap off of the water, and I did the entire talk, probably for 3 hours, on you could really benefit from really looking at this blue bottle cap and looking at what ideas have you read into this. Size, shape, weight, color, texture, and on, and the function of it, thinking of it in association with the bottle. You see, there's an association there. And then thinking of the bottle cap in association with the bottle, and then you have a hand that turns it to what? So that you can drink the water out of the bottle. It's a big story. Just that bottle cap. I went on for 3 hours. They were all like, next topic, please. And no, we are not leaving. We are not leaving this blue bottle cap. This has something to tell us. It's trying to help us reach the truth. Let's not brush over it. Let's take as long as we need to take to look. And that's what Jesus says in the workbook. You read meaning into things. Even he said you could receive vision. He was basically meaning you could receive the vision of Christ from a table if you would remove every idea from your mind that you've ever had of a table. Because a table relates to the body that sits at a table or sits something on a table. But there's always some kind of an association. Even when we look at the stars up in the sky and we see the twinkling stars, it relates to a body. And we know that it's just light that is coming from stars far, far away that actually have burned out. They're not there. We're just seeing it's the light traveling over all that distance. It makes it seem like it's still twinkle, twinkle, little star. And it's really nothing is there at all. But it's not so romantic to say, when we say, as long as the stars shine in the heaven, I will be in love with you. And then we learn now that the stars have already burned out and we're just basing our love on an event that's gone, long gone. And so it's hard to be romantic when you talk about the stars anymore and say, yeah, is that all? A burnt out star is what you're basing your love on? You'll only love me that much? So you can start to see that as you go deeper and deeper, that we need to start to see that what we consider different dimensions of time and space and what we might consider other galaxies, life on other planets, life in other spheres, or other dimensions. They're always talking about, the three-dimensional world, and sometimes they speak of a fourth dimension or a fifth dimension. I was a group growing up. Yeah, I really liked the fifth dimension. The song Aquarius, what a beautiful song. Harmony and understanding, sympathy and trust. And yet, what we have to do is we have to start to realize that even if we think it in terms of past lives and future lives, that what if everything that we consider of a lifetime is just a blip of a thought, and that lifetime is an entire universe? But what if it's all happening simultaneously? You can imagine how your mind would just start to unravel if you started to take the time and space components away. If you sucked all the time and space components out of your perception, what would be left? You see? And Jesus is saying reality is what's there. Reality remains true. When everything seems to fall away in your perception, reality remains true. So now let's try to shift towards a little setup of this movie, because it helps to have a setup of this movie. Maria's saying, I needed a setup before I tried to watch this movie, because without a setup, it's really difficult to follow. And that's part of what a movie is designed to do. Is it's just a tool or a means that the spirit can, you might say, defragment, just like the old computers, you had a defragmentation program to defragment your hard drive. This is more designed, the miracle is designed to defragment your sleeping mind. So it takes away all the fragmentation and just leaves you with an aha, like, oh, ah, happiness, joy. When the fragmentation's gone, there's nothing to get upset about. There's nothing to doubt. There's nothing to figure out. There's nothing to try to understand. No thing to understand. Because the one who you truly are is what understanding is. Jesus even says, you are the goal that the world is searching for. And we never heard that growing up. Our parents, teachers never wrote, you are the goal the world is searching for. There's something huge about that. And I think he's saying, you the Christ, are the goal the world is searching for. You, the Spirit, is the goal. You, the oneness, is what the goal the world is searching for. And just to take that in, you start to relax and breathe a little easier, because then you're not trying to compare yourself on the timeline to try to achieve something in the world, or accumulate something, or accomplish something. Look at all the guilt about trying to accomplish something that you made up, and now you're trying to reach a false standard and judging that you're short of the standard that was invented in the first place. You can see it's pretty ridiculous, and yet when you believe in it, the guilt feels very real. It feels like you've failed at something. You failed yourself, you failed your friends, your family, you failed your country, you failed something. So in this movie, which is really taking us toward the simultaneity of time, they have something called verse jump technology that's been invented in another of the multiverse universe. And this verse jump technology allows you to jump between these seemingly different aspects of the multiverse. So, remember with Star Trek, beam me up, and the little beams would come. This is like beaming in between different versions of nothing, which is what, if you could imagine like reincarnation, you could just go bouncing around through all your past lives and bouncing around through all your future lives. You probably would start to reach an experiential sense of what's the point. Imagine, this one, the sun comes up, you go through your day, the sun goes down, you sleep, the sun comes up, you go through your day, and it seems pretty solid and stable and repetitive, and sometimes people would even say boringly repetitive. But imagine you were jumping between your past lives and your future lives. You were just jumping all over the place, and there, that's what is kind of behind this movie. The overall premise is there's a Chinese American woman named Evelyn. So I right away when I saw this movie, because my biological mother's name was Evelyn, and she just passed several months ago, and then I'm watching everything everywhere all at once, and it's like, and there's Evelyn, and I'm just like, wow, that's cool. That's an interesting symbol. So Evelyn's a Chinese American woman, and she and her husband own and run a laundromat, and in America. So they live in their house, and then the house is connected to their work. So the laundromat's right there, and they always are going to check on the laundromat. So it's like having a home business. And so her husband, his name is Wu Wyman Wang. Wyman Wang. And she's Evelyn Kwan Wang. And they have a daughter, Joy Wang. So that's basically your family. The wife is Evelyn Kwan Wang, Wayman Wang, and Joy Wang. Okay. And I think it looks like to me, like Joy looks like maybe she's a teenager. Yeah, she's just a typical teenager, struggling through the teenage years, trying to find her way. And this is how it starts off, which is great, because that's the way we like to see a movie start. Even with Free Guy, we need to have a little context to be able to relate to Guy, because it's not going to work if we can't relate to the characters. So Evelyn is the main character, and basically she has a husband, Wayman, and a daughter, Joy. They have the laundromat, and then her father is Chinese, and he's come across from China to live with him. So, there's the father's in the house. The laundromat's right there, the house, the father's in the house, and the father is Gong Gong. Gong Gong. Gong, Gong Gong. So we have Evelyn, Wayman, Joy, and Evelyn's father, Gong Gong, living at home. And has any of you had a parent living in your home? The feelings, the tensions of, you almost, sometimes children have a sense of, I owe my life to them. They birthed me, and now they're in my home. So I want to make sure that they have enough food and that they have a nice life. If you have a parent in the house, it's that. So there's a bit of that dynamic going on. And a teenage daughter. That's kind of an interesting. A father in the home, teenage daughter. And Wayman is like, he's trying to, to talk to his wife, to please his wife. As we see from the beginning, he's got something really important he wants to talk to her about, but she's working on taxes for the IRS, because their family and their laundromat is being audited by the Internal Revenue Service. So basically, she's like going through all the receipts, and when you're audited, then basically you have to present to the Internal Revenue Service everything, and they go through to see if you're paying the right amount of taxes. It's kind of a pressure situation. So that's where the movie will begin. Also, Wayman Wang, we're going to have fun with this one. Wayman Wang is trying to talk to her, and while she's doing all these her desk is filled with all the paper, the receipts. He's trying to have a conversation with her about divorcing her. And he's got a piece of paper in his hand, which is written out his desire to divorce her. And she's so preoccupied, she's just trying to handle all these receipts. So that's kind of the family dynamics. That's actually the little family that we're starting with. Another thing is there's Joy is the teenager. She has a girlfriend. And that's a little unsettling for Evelyn. She's trying to open her mind to accept that her daughter Joy, maybe she had expectations that she'd have a boyfriend, and she's bringing home a girlfriend, Becky. And so there are the usual tensions, and I say usual just because these are how the human relationships seem to be. It's really just a story of judgments. Things would be better if they were different. Oh, maybe Evelyn thinks it'd be so nice if Joy just had a boyfriend instead of a girlfriend. And her husband, Wayman, is like saying, well, maybe it would be nice if I could get a divorce. And that's his version. And then the father, has just come over from China, and he just wants some respect. RESPECT. Find out what it means. He's the father. He's the patriarch. He's just looking to be treated right. Treat me right. I am the father. I've come all the way from China. I'm in the house now. Treat me right. And he's, of course, has his opinion. So you have this household of opinions. You have an IRS audit going on. And Joy is, as a teenager, she's not too thrilled with her mom, with the family situation. She wants to tell her mom's father, Gong Gong. She wants to come right out and say, "Here's my girlfriend." But Evelyn's like, don't rock the boat. So there's private thoughts, there's people pleasing going on, there's tensions, and this is human condition. And this is a good place for the movie to start. It's just, you can relate to it. It's a human condition. Now, all of these characters, including, they're going to go in and they're going to basically go to the IRS office, and then there's going to be an IRS inspector played by Jamie Lee Curtis, and it's you got to love the name, Deidre Bobidra. Deidre Bobidra. It's just perfect name for an IRS inspector agent. Deidre Bobidra. She's the IRS inspector, and they're going to try to get together to get the family in to talk to Deidre Bobidra, and she's suspicious, of these receipts. And are you claiming you're a singer and an actor and all these, deductions, for, it's like, what do you have, like 10 professions, 20 professions? Do you really expect me to give deductions for these things? And so Evelyn's there, her people-pleasing husband's there, and they brought along Gong Gong, who's just come over from China to the IRS room. And it's a very funny scene, but basically Deidre Bobidra is going to be saying, I know a story, I can smell a story, and I think I can smell something's wrong. You got big trouble if you think I'm just going to give you all these deductions. So it's this thing of money and saving money and deductions and taxes and everything. That's just the surface level. That's like the human consciousness. That's the surface level of this movie. But it helps you to have a little bit of an idea of the surface level, because there's many other layers of this. Because there's another version of her husband who is called Alpha Wayman. So we've got Wayman, Wang, and Alpha Wayman. And Alpha Wayman is from the Alpha universe. And this is a universe where Evelyn and Wayman and Joy all exist simultaneously. And this is a universe where they invented the verse jump technology. So Alpha Wayman's going to beam in and take over Wayman's body at times, and it's going to be a different personality, the same looking guy, but here comes Alpha Wayman. And then there is this Alpha Joy, and she's called Jabu Tupaka. So teenage Joy, there's Jabu Tupaka, and in this other universe, this alpha universe, the Evelyn, she pushed her teenage daughter, she pushed her daughter so hard in the verse jumping. It's like having your daughter on psychedelics, like in giving your daughter from a young age on up, ayahuasca, San Pedro, all kinds of psychedelics and everything. This verse jumping is kind of like psychedelics because you go to completely other timelines. And so she's pushed and pushed and pushed her daughter, Joy, in this alpha universe, who's Jobu Tupaki. And Jobu Tupaki, she's got pushed right to her limit where she just merged with all of the universes. She just went into the simultaneity, pushed by her mother. And when she went in, she could literally tap into all the skills of all her different versions at once. Any skills she had developed were all in her mind because she was in this kind of simultaneity, and she became enormously powerful. She was no longer identified with being a daughter. She became enormously powerful as she merged. And yet, the premise of the movie is that though she merged, there was still, it sounds like an ego aspect that still was hanging on, which was screaming at the meaninglessness of everything, at that everything she was experiencing, like what's the point? And you can imagine, Jesus is telling us in the Course that God didn't create the time-space universe. So imagine if you could just tap into all your past and your future lifetimes. I mean, pretty frequently, boom, 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 you're bouncing around between them all, then you might say that this Jabu Tupaka just faced this huge, huge meaninglessness, and she gained a huge amount of powers because she felt, what's the point of everything? But she could do pretty much anything that she could think of because she had reached that state. So basically, the premise underneath this simple life of this Chinese American family is that in another universe, their teenage daughter has attained unity. Kind of like in our universe with our cat. She feels she has attained, she has no limits. And we have to live with this every day. Uh, it's like a teenager who has unlimited power, and we're just like, oh hell, what do we do now? And that's kind of what this is, where this Jabu Tupaki is like, when she's going to make her appearance, like she's not going to answer to anyone and anything because she has so much power. But the ego, tiny aspect of this, it's still remaining, is kind of angry at the meaninglessness of all of form. And I know all of us have gone through that, where we just go, what's the point? Some point in your life, you go through the repeat over and over and over, and you're like, really? Do I have to pull the covers? Go through this again? What is the point to this repetition? Well, she's like, bing, bing, bing. She's verse jumping all over, all of time and space, and she's really fed up with the meaninglessness. In fact, she basically is thinking, she's basically saying, nothing matters. So here you have a teenager kind of like with all this immense power of all these skills and a philosophy of, what's the point? Nothing matters. Depressing. There's an aspect that's depressed. And then she's going to try to, like black holes, supposedly black holes they've discovered can take in stars and planets and light. They just sort of like can absorb the things of time and space. That's what black holes do. So she's like feeling like she's going to make like a black hole that's just going to bring an end to this meaningless multiverse. And she's going to make a giant bagel, an everything bagel. You people know about bagels? You know, you can get them with different things on, and then you can go to the store, grocery store, and actually buy everything bagels. And everything bagels have they got the little seeds on, and sesame seeds, poppy seeds, and all these other things on there, salt and this and that. So she's going to make an everything bagel that will absorb the whole universe because of its meaninglessness. So, so that I'm preparing you a little bit so you're not so shocked. So you can, if you, but I am saying too, like, you don't really have to follow this, but because I'll be doing commentary underneath this, but I'm just trying to get it so that you aren't watching this going like, what? What's the bagel? Where does the bagel? You know, a bagel, if you look at a bagel, what is a bagel? A bagel is a zero. If you play tennis, for example, if you play a best 2 out of 3 tennis match and somebody said, what was the final score? I got bageled. That's what a tennis player will tell you. If they got beat 6-0, 6-0, they got bageled. They were shut down. They did not win a single game. So that's kind of a nice symbol for the void, for nothingness, for meaninglessness. Actually, when you think of it, it's a pretty good symbol, an everything bagel. It looks like it's everything, but really it's nothing. Right? And isn't that what this whole world seems to be? Like, I mean, Shakespeare even said, much ado about nothing. This world is much ado about nothing. That's what this bagel is. This is a black hole bagel that basically has been designed to just destroy the cosmos. And now, from the Alpha universe comes the Gong Gong has a version in the Alpha universe, and so does Evelyn, and so does Wayman. But in that universe, Evelyn died, and after she pushed her daughter to the limit and had her jumping, verse jumping all over the place, then she died, and then Joy became Jobu Tupaki, who was ultimate power and upset. So you see, that's the context of the whole thing. Now, Evelyn's just seems like a regular woman. So her husband from this other universe, that's Alpha Wayman, he's basically trying to teach her using her iPhone and apps of different parallel lives and the decisions that you make. And every decision you make is important because that's how these alternate universes are generated, by these false decisions. It's basically ego choices generate entire hypothetical constructs called universes. Just they're choices. So they're not like something that exists apart from you. They're actually choices in the mind. Choices, I might say, in the wrong mind. Obviously, in the right mind, it's just all connected. It's all bliss. It's all joyful. It's all the same. Everything is the same. But in the wrong mind, everything is different. And there's better, there's worse, there's good, there's bad, there's hierarchies, there's levels. It's a complex mess in the wrong mind. And this movie will really show us the complex mess. If you think your life on Earth is complicated, you should see when you start popping in and out of other time frames in other dimensions. And I mean, boing, boing, you're first told you need to pop into these you need to do the jump verse, and then you're like, but what are you talking about? And then you're told specific instructions on how you jump verse. Like when someone's coming to attack you, to kill you, the instruction may be you have to look them and sincerely say, I love you, as they're coming to kill you. And then you say, you do the right instructions, you follow them, and you say, I love you. You have to say it with heart to jump to another dimension. So this also has the listen, follow component, because there's instructions on how to do this jump versing. And then I think the point of all the jump versing, though, is just to start to see what is the point, to really come to that place of what is the purpose. And that's really what Jesus wants us to do as well. He wants us to come to the place where we see that there is a purpose for this world, and it's called forgiveness. And it's so important. It's if you had to put all your mind energy into one direction, Jesus would say, good, do that. Put all your mind energy in the direction of forgiveness. It's the only lesson you have to learn to escape this world. It's the only thing that's important. Nothing compares in the world to the lesson of forgiveness in your mind. And I think in its own way, this Chinese American kind of movie is basically, without using Jesus and without using religious terms or whatever, it's basically going to use like quantum terms and multi-universe terms to bring the mind to a point of popping or letting go, of thinking that it can figure out the world. Isn't that amazing? When we're growing up, we're told we have to have all this education, and then we do primary education. Okay, you have secondary education, then you have to go to university, then you have to go to graduate school, and then you have to go to continuing education workshops the rest of your life. You have to learn, learn, decade after decade after decade to understand the world. And the joke is that it can't be understood. That's the joke. We've been trying to understand something, linear time and the cosmos, that cannot be understood. Jesus says, yeah, you'll never understand it. You will never understand the ego. You will never understand ego dynamics. You will never understand the cosmos because God didn't create it. And you'll only be able to understand your true identity as God created you, and that's it. And that's the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help me God. Jesus is like that, saying like, really, I'll swear on a Bible. That is really the whole truth, that you won't be able to understand the world, but you will be able to forgive it. And when you forgive it, you'll feel peace, and your understanding will come in the peace of mind. But it won't come intellectually. It won't come from anything you read in a book. You will never learn the truth. He even says in the Course, truth cannot be described or explained, but only experienced. Don't you love it? A book that tells you truth cannot be described or explained, but only experienced. And he says that an experience will come to end your doubting. At the clarification of terms, which he's saying the ego will ask many questions that this Course has no answer for. How did the separation, how did the impossible happen? To whom did the impossible happen? And he said, there is no answer. Yet, there is an experience that will come that will end your doubting. There's going to be an aha, like, aha! Oh my gosh! that will end your doubting. You will never have a doubt thought again. You'll never have a fear thought again. It will be an experience, though. It's not a concept, not a theology. He doesn't say a theology will come. Sometimes people have the Course and they think, I have the truth. No, the Course is just a theology that, like a trampoline, you have to spring off of and go into the actual experience. It's not in a book. You can't put the truth into a book. And Jesus says the Course is one form of the universal curriculum, and that there are thousands of other forms. So it's not claiming any kind of exclusivity in terms of its trampoline for bouncing. It's just saying, hey, it's a good trampoline. There's there's thousands of others. Please get on the trampoline and jump and leap back into your remembrance of who you are. I don't care which one you take, but please jump. Please get on the trampoline and jump and leap off and leave the trampoline behind, because who you are is way beyond words and concepts. So we'll also see, as Evelyn goes through these, when she learns to jump, when she learns to verse jump, she will spring into other seeming lifetimes that she was completely unaware of. You can imagine how that would alter your perception if you just started throughout the day jumping into other timelines. In this movie, she will jump. In one timeline, she was a very famous, beautiful actress. So she will jump where wearing elegant dresses, her hair, and then even her husband, Wayman, is in there with her, and he's, instead of being a poor, chirping people pleaser, he looks like Cary Grant, a Chinese Cary Grant, because she's the beautiful actress. He's the the wealthy businessman who's very handsome, in that universe. Then she'll flip over to another universe. She is a kung fu master. In her American life, she seems to be like frightened and defensive, and she's like trying to just do her taxes. She really can't get her taxes done. When she goes verse jumping and she's kung fu master, they can come at her and she can take him on, all on. She has skills from that. So you can see what her daughter Joy went through in the Alpha universe, because Joy just took on all the skills and abilities from all of her aspects. And so she's very powerful. And Jesus is saying again, though, that if you still have an aspect that identifies with these powers in a personal way, he's telling us in the Course, you're not going to be happy. And I can definitely say that Jobu Tupaki is not really a happy teenager, even though she seems to have all these abilities, because she hasn't forgiven. But the movie will take us towards the forgiven state. It will take us in basically in Evelyn's everyday experience. It's going to go from the IRS office of Deidre Bubidra, and it's going to take us all the way through this transformation, and then in the end, the family will be back at the desk of Deidre Bubidra. But the state of mind will be transformed, where that's the thing. The form will still look to be the same, but the state of mind, she's just going to relax. She's just going to smile. You can see it on her face, the smile of not taking anything seriously, being able to observe from a place of calmness, happiness. And Evelyn comes. It's so funny that my biological mother was Evelyn. Evelyn goes all the way past family concepts, past concepts of being a famous actress and a kung fu master and all these things, to a point of just blissful acceptance. And that's really the value of this movie, because it's just showing us, wow, no matter what you seem to go through, it's all about the blissful acceptance in your mind. It's all about a state of mind. It's not about the form. It's just about a state of mind. So that's it. That gives you so you're not going to get too lost in this one. Maria's already gone through that for an hour, and she's like, turn it off, get out, we got to get out, we're losing our sanity, get out. But this, you'll be able to be in there, and then we'll pause at certain points where there's a key teaching point. So there it is. You can just see it in her face. It's just the weight of the day-to-day human condition. In her case, she can't believe some of the things her husband's doing. He doesn't seem to be responsible. He's dancing around and jumping around. He's in the surveillance thing, hopping all over the place. She doesn't really want to talk to her daughter about bringing Becky over. Don't upset my father. Is this his party tonight? Don't say anything. And the daughter's like, this is important. This is my life. This is my life now. Becky's a part of my life. I want to share a part of my life. And the frictions and tensions are showing in the beginning here of just the human condition. And then on the TV, there it looks like these actors, and they're singing to each other, and you can just see it in her face, like, oh my gosh, what I would give if I had that kind of fulfillment and vitality, like the man and the woman singing together. And so in the middle of the laundromat, she just is frozen. She just stops, and she's totally engulfed in that. And that also is important too, because that's, I think, why, even though we have a story going on that we believe is our own life, then there's all these other kind of fantasies or things that look more alluring, like, oh, maybe someday I'll get away from this particular thing and I'll get into this other thing. And that's what she's got going on. But you can also see the people pleasing is pretty thick, and she just have no time. Her mind is busy and her world is busy. And she's not smelling the roses. She's not really taking it all in, because yeah, I think it's also false responsibility. She's got a responsibility to her dad, who's just moved there from China, a responsibility to her husband, a responsibility to her daughter, but she doesn't have a whole lot of time to really talk about heart to heart with the daughter about what's going on in her life and with Becky and everything. And then there's this thing hanging over her, the auditing of their laundromat by the IRS, and that's weighing on her. She feels this auditor is targeting other people in the Chinese community. It's unfair. It's just there's a vendetta. There's something there that's under. So this is our starting point, and this we haven't even got the layers and layers and layers of the multi-universe. This is just her complexity of what she's dealing with on a daily basis with her husband, with her daughter Joy, with the customers in the laundromat, and we will soon meet Deirdre Bobidra, played by Jamie Lee Curtis, who's the IRS inspector who is there to check up, and she's like an IRS expert. No, nothing gets by her. She checks every receipt, making sure you're not telling a lie, trying to cheat the government out of taxes. So, you can see the layers of complexity coming on, but in the end, Jesus is telling us that only the ego is complex. And if we decide to quit looking through that filter, we'll be able to look upon the same world. There'll still be sights and sounds. There'll still be the same colors, the same forms, the same shapes, and everything that's going on. But there'll be something in our mind that will be able to look on the images and just go, they're not real. None of them. And it'll just be so calm and so peaceful because there's not an attempt to judge it. It's the judging. It's the arranging things in hierarchies, giving some importance to some things, some importance to other things. That's where the struggle comes in, is just in our mind. It's nothing going wrong with the world. It's our perception of the world that is in great need of healing. So the people in our lives, like here we have Evelyn and her husband, her father, her daughter, it seems like we're just dealing with them and what we believe about them and who we believe they are in this seeming linear lifetime, what we might call a lifetime between birth and death. But actually, these same people, we have been interacting with them in our mind for thousands and thousands of years, what the world would call lifetimes. We seem to be playing this out, the same patterns that we believe in, because remember, what we think and what we believe is the universe that we see. Projection makes perception. So if you believe it, you perceive it. So as long as our consciousness is filled with belief of what men are like, what women are like, what daughters are like, what daughters should be like, expectations, what fathers are like, what mothers are like, what children are for, what the purpose of a job is, what the purpose of a career, what the purpose of a country is. Everything that we perceive, without exception, is what we believe. So we're simply watching a motion picture of our belief system. And then when we're tempted to say, I would be happy if this was different, that and this, I would be happy. We don't realize that it's the way it is, seems to be, because we put it there. we're doing this to ourselves. We're not a victim of the world. The world's just a reflection of our consciousness. So if we just get a glimmer of that, we start to realize, wow, I need to really pay close attention to my feelings, close attention to my consciousness, because that's what the whole lesson is to learn to let it up from the unconscious and release it. And the characters give us the best opportunity to do that, because they're right in our face, so to speak. The reactions we have towards people. It's a wonderful reflection. I've had people tell me, I'm getting off of Facebook. I say, why are you getting off of Facebook? I am an emotional wreck. I read all the comments that everybody makes to my post, and then I delete the post. I ban people. I I quit groups and this until it's just too much. I have to get off of Facebook. And maybe I'll start a new Facebook page and cultivate a different group. But basically, it's a great opportunity because those reactions, those emotional reactions from reading even comments, are coming from interpretations. And the mind is interpreting, it's reading all the meaning into the comments. It's reading all the meaning into what people are saying and doing. It doesn't mean anything in and of itself, but it's the mind is reacting to its own judgments. And it doesn't see that it's doing this. It thinks it's outside. Oh, if those people would just change, if they would quit judging, and so on and so forth. If the world was different, then I'd be happy. So this is a good start, because you can really get a little synopsis here of what's going on in Evelyn's world. And then the same kind of things that are nuances in this world will be presented through the other realms and characters coming from other realms into her perception, and that will really accelerate the awakening, because instead of spreading it over thousands of years, it's all going to come crashing in to her awareness, and it's going to seem like she's going to have to really learn to choose again in a rapid way. Otherwise, she feels like she's going to die, like it's going to be too much stress. So she's told she has an option. She can either go to the meeting, the IRS meeting, or go into the janitor's closet. And when she gets up there, she just looks at the janitor's closet like, what was that? And that's the instructions. And these kind of instructions are very, very similar to those inner prompts and nudges that you will get from the Holy Spirit, where you'll get a little prompt, like here, kind of like in the Matrix, Morpheus says, I can guide you, but you must do exactly as I say. And Neo is not so keen on following all the instructions immediately. He gets to the roof, and you can use the scaffolding to get to the roof, and he's like, what did I do? I didn't do anything. I can't do this. He loses the phone, it goes out. Well, she's starting to get her instructions here from this man who's really Wayman from this alpha universe, and he's going to start to instruct her on how to verse jump and lots of things. But that's what I like about this movie. You can see Evelyn, she's like thinking, she's just going to the IRS building there to go to a meeting with her family with this IRS agent, Deidre Babidra, and that's her scenario. And then suddenly in the elevator, she gets a life review, and she's told she can go for the janitor's closet if she wants. But her conscious mind is like thinking, why would I go into a janitor's closet when I have to go face this IRS inspector with my family? That's why I came here. My dad's with me. You see, and that will be part of the debate you'll have as you start to follow the guidance, because the guidance will come and you'll feel the prompt, you'll feel the nudge, and then you'll have this part of your mind that'll go, that's absolutely ridiculous. That's ridiculous. So a lot of the Holy Spirit's instructions initially will seem ridiculous. And it's only by following them that you realize how spectacular they are, that those little prompts and nudges are gateways to the miracle and to eternity. That's what they are. They're they're the Holy Spirit using what you believe in to give you instructions that will take your mind into a place that it will open up and drop all the judgments, except for following the Holy Spirit's guidance. That's the only helpful use of judgment. And it still knows your preferences, what you prefer, so it will use what you prefer to take you where you really want to be. And that's what's happening here with Evelyn. So there it is. Wow. There it is. The higher self is telling her everything has led you to this moment. It's led you to this point of release. And in this moment, of course, you have another chance to choose again, another chance to release the ego, another momentary chance to be free, to be fulfilled, to be happy, to be joyful. So even though this is her husband from this other universe, he's like very insistent. Like he came in, he reached her mind, and now she's got two things going on. Listening to him, but you can just see her face, her eyes start to light up with the wisdom that comes through. And that's what happens with the Holy Spirit. When we start to get the wisdom, our eyes start to sparkle. We start to feel like hope, like there's hope of escape, and you can see it with her. And so this is the very, very beginning of her, you might say, in her busy, busy world and busy, busy life, coming into listen and follow, which is something we always talk about with the Course and our community. Listen, follow, pray, listen, follow. Instead of eat, pray, love, with Julia Roberts, pray, listen, and follow. Because it's the mind that needs to pray, listen, and follow to wake up. The prayer is the medium of miracles, and the guidance will open the mind to more and more miracles. So it won't be just a miracle here or there. It'll be more consistent miracles, consistent floods of miracles. Your whole day, each day should be devoted to miracles. Jesus says miracles are natural. When they do not occur, something has gone wrong. So you see, he's taking it from like an extraordinary thing, like Moses parting the Red Sea, or some huge thing, and he's saying no, they're actually very natural. And when you start to relax into this function, you're going to say, wow, this is really cool, this is easy. And it's hard then to go back to the analytical way, to the I'm living from my past learning way. But Jesus will say, it's not that his course is difficult, but he says, but it is very different from our past patterns. It's extremely different. So I know that was the most difficult thing for me when I first started reading the book and said, okay, Jesus, you got me. Yes, I say yes. And then these little nudges and prompts would come, and I would be like, sometimes just like, what? You want me to what? You want me to call so-and-so? You want me to go to what? And I have met so many people over these last 30 years. There's a very famous filmmaker in Sweden, Kai Pollak, and you might have seen his movie As It Is in Heaven. But basically, he took me into the studio where he and his wife and his sister kind of wrote the whole movie. They whiteboarded the whole thing, and then it just turned into this amazing movie. But he said, roll back to the point where it was like, I think it was like 10 minutes till 1 in the morning one time, and he heard in his mind, go to this local kind of restaurant, tavern thing. I think it was over in Sweden. And he was like, at 10 minutes to closing, you want me to go to this place? And it was like, yes. And he said, I went, and I was just there for the final 10 minutes, but I met my wife. in those 10 minutes, and his wife and his sister were the ones that were the collaborators that he joined with to do As It Is in Heaven. And as a famous filmmaker and a 20-year Course in Miracles student, he put all of his filmmaking skills to be used by Jesus, and it's an amazing movie, amazing healing movie. So here she is, and she's just at that beginning point of just the baby steps of trust, because she's got so much busyness going on and so many false responsibilities that she's like, go away, no time for this, I'm busy. She just with her little Chinese voice, I'm too busy. So the instructions that her husband from the women from the other Alpha universe has written, and his divorce, his plea for a divorce. So he's saying, she's saying, and he's like there because it's a multiple meaning there. Yeah, one side is the prompts, and the other side is him asking for a divorce. There it is. When presented with the option. Yeah. Because clearly this Wayman is like coming from the Alpha universe, and he has his martial arts skills with the fanny pack. but you can see that what she's saying is, I want to lie here. She just curled, she went into the fetal position, because that's how it can seem with the mind training. You're working and you just want, no, I want to go back. I want a comfortable life. I want a comfortable life. I don't want to go on some kind of mind training adventure that's going to bring up intense emotions. I want to just keep them down there. Let them live in the basement, Jesus. That's why we have a basement. It's dirty, it's cobwebs, it's dark, and I keep the door closed and locked. So I don't want to see what's in the basement. But this is the journey that Jesus says is through the darkness to the light. So part of it is an allowance of letting it come up and becoming better and better with that. Like, okay, I'm willing. It doesn't feel good all the time, but I'm willing for the greater good of realizing my true self, of realizing who I really am. I'm willing to go through it. And so you can see here, it's the very beginning for her. She's just like, she's very hesitant to that. She hasn't seen enough to have developed her trust. She takes immediately the fetal position when given the alternative there. Okay. So the I love you, the sincere I love you, gives her the verse jump. And to put it in perspective with the Course, these verse jumps are all to hypothetical universes. And hypothetical is as if. That's what a hypothetical is. It's an as if. So all of the potential hypotheticals of all the things you could ever say or do anywhere in the cosmos, those hypotheticals are just as if potentials, or as if propositions. And then what does the as if mean? As if the separation occurred. You see, the Course is teaching us the separation never happened. That's even the lesson for today. I will accept atonement for myself. And atonement is the awareness, the recognition that the separation never happened. Of course that's the correction. That must be the end of guilt, that I never was actually really able to separate from my Creator. But the belief that I could separate from God and invent myself, instead of accepting I was created perfect, in perfect innocence, then that generates hypotheticals. So that's really what this movie is showing, is there's all these hypotheticals. Some of them can be judged as good, some of them as bad. But it seems like to even be able to jump timelines, we'll call it, to jump timelines, you have to have just the right conditions. This other guy, Wayman from the Alpha, he seems to have to chew on something to activate his little green things that go into his ear, and then he jumps, and he gives her instructions. You have to express your love to Deirdre, and she tries. And she tries and tries, and Deidre keeps coming, and she's even going like this with her hand. I love you, I love you. It's like, you see, unless it's fully from the heart and sincere, then the jump doesn't happen. So it's similar, pretty similar with the Course, where the miracles are already there. Jesus will perform the miracles through your mind if you're just willing. It's not like you have to have all kinds of perfect conditions, but you do have to be willing. That's the condition for Jesus to use the mind for miracles, just that you're willing, nothing else. So it's good to know that it's just that. All you have to be is willing, and then the rest just happens. But there's a lot of past conditioning that is telling you have to be good enough. And a lot of people even feel that with the Course, where they get the Course and they go, did you get the right one? Are you really who's a miracle worker? Me. I'm a miracle worker. It's like, there's so much past learning. It's so conditioned and built in there that's the struggle. So you can see for her, she's just made a pretty interesting jump, because now she's a beautiful actress. One minute she's got Deirdre flying through the air, ready to demolish her and crush her bones. And then she gets the I love you really from her heart, which she was told you have to express your love there for Deirdre. Skills. It's only to acquire the skills. And then the Spirit will take it for the purpose that the skills, which is a whole different purpose from which they were made, but just to acquire the skills. And don't give in to the distractions and the temptations. So what a perspective we're getting. Talk about a mind expanding. This is like a journey in the mind using the symbol of the multiverse, which is really just using hypotheticals, all the hypothetical forms that you could play out, and they're all based on as if I'm separate from God. And I have to come to start to see that none of them provide any kind of lasting peace and love and harmony, but I also have to be willing to open my mind. And it's, in this case, miracles are like these verse jumps. She verse jumps, and then she sees this glimmer, and I want to go back. I have to go back. I have to tell my husband how great my life was without him. No, here, stay here. It's just a crack. Let it seal up. So it's kind of showing us how we just have to keep making these internal miraculous leaps by following the guidance without getting too hung up and trying to make a story to add to the leap, as if the story means something, because the story is the hypothetical. The linear story is always the hypothetical. We're wanting to not tell ourselves any more stories, but we have to let the Spirit use the stories for a while, because we're too addicted to the stories. Who are you? Where do you live? Who do you work for? Tell me about your family. What are your goals and ambitions for the future? Story, 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 story. You can see in the timeline, that's most of the communication is all about the stories. And then this is about letting the skills be used to free your mind from the stories. So it's very strong. There it is. We have to get the name right. What is it? It's Jabu Tupaki. Don't mess with Jabu Tupaki. So this is what Wayman from the Alpha Universe is concerned about. Like, you have to reach your full potential, because the chaos is... And we'll start to see a little bit more, even though she merged and she has now accumulated all the skills from all the potential hypothetical timelines, we'll call it. She still is upset because of the meaninglessness. You see, you have to, when you really look at A Course in Miracles, look at that first lesson that Jesus is leading off with. His lead-off hitter is, nothing I see means anything. And so he's going to have to take the mind and have it loosen from what it thinks it sees and what it thinks it means. So the second lesson in the Course is, I have given everything I see all the meaning it has for me. And you can see when you really look at those workbook lessons, he's trying to help us see that the thoughts we think and the world we think we see are identical. The world is not really external to our mind, it's in our mind. It's a world of chaos, which is the wrong mind, that we believe in, and we're doing it to ourselves by choosing the wrong mind. And the reason we're afraid to let go of the wrong mind is because the ego says, if you let go of me, who would you be? If you let go of the world, then what's left of you? If you let go of pursuing all these ego goals, then what will become of you? It's the fear of meaninglessness that the ego has. The ego is afraid of meaninglessness. And of course, it will look at the world and it will never let the mind say, oh, it's just meaningless, because if the sleeping mind, actually saw that the world was meaningless, then it could let the Holy Spirit write a new meaning on the whole world. Write forgiveness, happy dream over the whole thing. But as long as the mind is convinced that it's meaningless, then it will interject its own words. Boring, pointless. Why am I still here? And Jesus is like, okay, you're asking why am I still here, but who is the I that's still here? You see how Jesus is saying, keep questioning, don't stop with the meaninglessness, don't stop with the boredom. Allow it to be shown to you to be totally meaningless, so that the Holy Spirit can write a new meaning on the word. And the only way you can do that is if you accept that you're the dreamer. You can't proclaim and declare, I am a dream figure, now I want to forgive. Jesus is like, well, maybe you need to question, I am a dream figure, because your mind is much, much more powerful than that. So this is it. We finally get to see the teenager that was pushed too far and who popped. But she didn't pop through completely. So she's now reflecting, I can do anything that I want. And people will do that with the Course. They'll say, well, if the world doesn't mean anything, that means I can do anything I want. And that's making a jump. You see how the ego is trying to jump in there. I can do whatever I want. When actually Jesus is saying, no, what you do comes from what you think. And we need to purify your thoughts, because that puppet will just keep acting out the thoughts that you think about yourself. So we need to purify consciousness before you escape. That you can't escape inside the dream, but you can first escape by seeing you're dreaming it. And then once you start to see you're dreaming it, now I'll give you the new purpose, which is forgiveness. But I can't get you the new purpose if you still haven't gone back far enough. If you're still clinging to the dream figure, then it's not going to do it. Then you'll just try to spiritualize your journey and become like some kind of a guru, or you'll have a teacher concept that you're never afraid, you're never wanting to let go of because you like it too much. And then that's where the struggle. You see, Jesus is like, keep coming, one more, come back. You're the Christ. We're the Christ. don't get, it's just a stepping stone. Don't get stuck. And so she's not at that point yet, but she's definitely starting to see that she can start to jump verse, do these verse jumps. How's that for a turnaround? Ego doesn't like that. You're living your worst you. Great potential. I think I have a video on YouTube where it says something about failure. What's it called? Failure is good. I think that's the name of a YouTube video. Failure is good. Because you have to start to see past the idea of failure. There we go. Okay, I'm glad this is the last movie. David, my self-concept is taking a big hit. I'm just going to be happy from now on and not be concerned about the rest. So you can see, and look at the back, the father, Gong Gong from the other universe. He's just like almost shaking his head, like oh, this isn't working out, and yet the husband Wayman from the Alpha universe, he's like, no, he's using some good divine logic with her. You've failed at everything you've tried. You are living your worst you, and that's why he sees the potential for her to be the one. It's not what she's done, but it's what she's not done that he's impressed with. He's impressed with her failure. Okay. So just like her, that's another key idea. Because as long as we believe in the ego and hypotheticals and different places, people, things, this alternative thing, just spinning like a wheel of karma, then who is a friend and who's an enemy? Like she's in this scene, she's having a tough time. She's like, but she's your granddaughter. She's like seeing, this is joy. This is my daughter. And then he's saying, no, if you don't kill her now, she'll just continue to do what she's doing and in other universes. So that's the problem of the ego, is you can't tell the difference between a friend and an enemy. When you try to conclude something, you don't really see it's all you. If it's all simultaneous, it must be always your own mind. And so Jesus has a beautiful section in the Manual for Teachers, and they ask Jesus, how is judgment relinquished? How's that for a question for Jesus to answer? How is judgment relinquished? And he's basically answers, and he said, you don't have to stop judging. You have to realize the impossibility of judgment. You see the difference between telling yourself, I need to stop judging, as if like you're on this quest to do this for Jesus and you're personally going to stop judging, and the personality is the judgment. So when you try to think of yourself as a person stopping judgment, he's saying, don't even go there. You just have to, for an instant, realize the absolute impossibility of judgment. And why is judgment absolutely impossible? Because God didn't create it. God didn't create judgment. This idea of self-judgment is not a real idea. He's basically telling us, you're off the hook. And you were never on the hook. You see what a drastic, that's perfect. Here we are, the lesson for today. I will accept atonement for myself. This movie is really taking us deep to start to see, oh, we never did anything wrong because we weren't a body, and we never did anything right because we were never a body. And that's the key. It's not about trying to first judge something that was done and then figure a way to back out of it. It's really coming into that pristine I am presence, which is prior to time, prior to error. It's that moment. It's the present moment. But it's not a present moment between the past and the future. We've been tricked, even our history classes, drawing those chalkboard lines and the past and the arrow and the future, and then putting a little line and saying, that was a trick too. Even our history class was teaching us a false conception of time because we believed it, so it was reflected in our history teachers even. So now she's pondering this idea of sameness. So Jesus tells us in the Course, you can develop your skills so fully that they can get you out of an impossible situation. And guess what he calls this world? An impossible situation. Don't you love it? You can develop your skills so fully. Evelyn's like maybe not enough when her husband and Joy's there, and he's like saying, tone it down. And she says, maybe I haven't turned it up enough. So she's tapping into when she had the little pizza sign and she was out there waving her pizza sign. She's bringing in all of her skills. And what that means for us, it really, as miracle workers, is you can develop your communication skills to such an extent that they can get you out of an impossible situation. Meaning, if you keep teaching what you would learn and you keep extending the attitude, the love, the words that the Spirit gives you, it will erase the false identity from your mind, and you will go from communication into communion with God, because that's what creation is just pure communion. But you see how it has to go through the steps. That's why we say, teach what you would learn. We sold that canvas property, but what did I have on the blackboard there? Teach only love, for that is what you are. Yeah, that's what how many times you buy a house that has a blackboard? Yeah, it was on there for all the years, probably for over a decade, just with chalk. I went in there and I said, oh, look, a chalkboard. And I grabbed a piece of chalk, teach only love, for that is what you are. And when we sold it, we left it there. It had that still right by the kitchen. But you see, this is a perfect scene because now she's starting to believe that she can tune in through this verse jumping and collect the skills that she needs for the given moment, whatever the given moment. And when she keeps doing it, then she starts to build confidence. Like, oh, I can deal with this by tuning in, not from relying on past learning, thinking I know how to defend myself, but it's more just tuning in to what is it I need right now. That's always the question. What do I need right now? The prayer of the heart. What do I need right now? Very simple. See how focused that is. It's not what will I need in the future. It's what do I need right now. Oh, we made it. You're seeing part one is like, oh, part two, oh, and part three was very quick. Part three is the state of mind. Yeah, there's some good laughs from the back of the room there. The imagination. The many facets of imagination, but still, it's just good to think it's all just a state of mind. Life is a state of mind. Yeah. So that was very much of a variety of movies. I don't think we've ever had such a range. So, yeah, it's beautiful. Well, Greg has a microphone, right? In case anybody has anything. You were all laid out for that movie. She said in the movie too, no matter how stupid things could be in any universe, there's always something to love. Even in a universe where fingers are hot dogs, they really enjoyed those toes.
But I think at the end, how I feel is like many possibilities, many solutions to the same impossible situation. And it's like, if I have a say in the matter, I would just get out of the game and go home to my father. Like that. Because it's a game at infinity. Nobody knows how many, you know. Alphaverse, multiverse, TTD, and it's so tiring. And even when you think you are happy, at the next corner it's like boom, and you're out again. You know, I was just tired. I am tired. That's how I feel.
Hmm. Well, it's like in the Matrix movie, when Neo goes to meet the architect, and they discuss that the problem is choice, and they've got all those TV monitors, and Neo's acting out, angry in all of them, and and that is kind of just showing the anomaly of the ego. It it is it doesn't so much matter the form, so it must be that you do have a say of saying stop. You do have a say of saying enough is enough. You do have a say of saying I have a purpose in my heart that I would fulfill, but I'm not going to be concerned about the form. Because in the end, it's like, it's only identifying with the person where the struggle comes in of guilt. Did I get it yet? Did I do enough? Did I fulfill my part? But the part is, in the end, it's just in the mind. It's like letting go and saying, I'm not created to be concerned about this. It's just what inspires you, that you can focus on that one question, what inspires you. So every day, Maria, what inspires you? What inspires you? No shoulds, no ought tos, no have tos, no I must. Just what is it that where there's a lightness, and that's what you all wrote down. I want lightness. I want gentleness. I want inspiration. I want to trust. I want guidance. Yeah, that's it. That's the focus. And that is worthy of the mind, to really pray and say, what is it that I really feel? And sometimes it's just to be still and do nothing. And it's perfectly, perfectly, perfectly okay. There's no one judging you should be doing something, or something should be better or should be different. Yeah.
So it's like a life created every day, moment by moment, choosing.
Yeah, that's it.
Like
That's it. It's very simple. You can do that. You got a big smile. You got your vitality back.
that's the answer.
Yeah,
What else?
yeah, of course.
I'm done.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can put your faith and trust in that wholeheartedly. Yeah.
I realize, I think, in the first part that, okay, she has to make peace with her daughter. She has to tell her that she loves her to undo all this mess. But she had to go through all these lives when they were very, very fast, changing, to make her, to get to the point where she understood what she needed, right? To fix it all. And but I'm wondering if all that, all those lives, universe, it's the undoing that we are going through, sort of, to get to join with the Father, right? To be one. Mm. Yes, that's kind of, I guess I don't know if it's a question, but I can see why now we have to go through so much to be in the worst situation, to take that step and decide, right? For yes.
Yeah, it's like that bagel. That bagel really represents zero expectations.
Okay.
It's a bagel of expectations, zero. That's what the everything
Okay.
bagel is. So in the end, there was little things with the mother-daughter thing, like I have to tell you it's something important. You're fat and you need to lose weight. Why don't you call? Well, that's why you're gay. Da, da, da. These are all just expectations.
Right.
There's not acceptance, and there's not allowance. And then at the end, Joy said, "Let me go, let me go." And Evelyn said, "Okay." You see, it's like in the end, we have to release the roles and the concepts, because the roles and the concepts were packed full of expectations. And it's time we were bageled.
Mm.
It's time we were bageled with our expectations, and know that that's perfectly wonderful to have zero expectations. That's what Jesus says, that all things be exactly as they are. All things work together for good. There is no exception except in the ego's judgment.
Mm.
And you could start to feel, he says at one point, without judgment are all things equally acceptable.
Mm.
Oh, those are so soothing. But again, he's saying we don't have to stop judging, we just have to have a realization that we never judged in the first place.
It's not real.
It wasn't real. God didn't create it. God didn't create us that way. God didn't create us to judge. God didn't create us to have opinions. God didn't create us to have stereotypes, what we call stereotypical thinking. All people are this way, or all this race, and all that race, and all men are this way, women are this way. Who says?
Mm. Mm.
Who really says? And and why would we cling to differences when deep down in our hearts we're the same. We're the same one. We have the same creator. I grew up and I was in university for 10 years, and I really go through all these things in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Even thoughts about diversity, I had to see, wait a minute, what's that even mean, diversity? What is that? Or those kind of thoughts that would come in. Variety is the spice of life. What does that mean? Why do I need variety?
Mm.
And why do I need multiplicity? What does that even serve? Multiplicity. You see, it starts to be like you go through all this, and then you're like,
Mm.
you can just stop. You don't really need to play the game. I would tell people, because they would say, why did this happen to me and I can't stand it, and why did that happen to me? And one time it came through my mouth, I said, when you want something from the world will want something from you.
Mm.
And how wonderful that we can not want something from the world. I remember even my grandmother was always reciting to me the 23rd Psalm from the Bible. And it starts off with, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Ah, wow, that's refreshing. You see how different that is from, trying to fulfill the wants with the world.
No expectations.
Yeah.
Okay.
And believing somehow that we're not whole and complete, somehow that we're empty. That's the big trick. That we're empty, that we're incomplete, that we're not enough, ultimately when people get down to their hurt or their wound, it's this feeling like of not enough. I wish I could have been more. And it's like, but in the end, we don't really have to spin that wheel of trying to be more and more. Yeah. Like I read about the Beata Idol section, I think it was, what is an idol do you think you know? An idol is for more of something. It does not matter more of what. That really played out in the movie, As long as there was a wish for more, then the hypotheticals just kept rolling like a Rolodex, round and round and round. Sometimes very fast. Sometimes you'd be there, you could see all these faces, all these memories, and then that's like coming closer to simultaneity, to the simultaneous time when it starts to flash. Like, wait a minute. Okay, well, I don't need any of this.
No.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I noticed in part 3 two different facets of Evelyn. As they were going into the building, she was telling Becky, grow your hair, like she would tell her daughter supposedly lovingly, you got to lose weight. But then in the office, when all this is going on, she's in this, beautiful state. And so I find it fascinating and disturbing how in the course of a day I can feel such expanse and depths of tearful gratitude and then shocking anxiety. And so I introduce time and ask, when am I going to have sustainable peace? And I know that's the mistake, to introduce time. And it's a tricky maneuver. I don't really know how to dance with that.
Yeah, but what helped me was when I was going through the course, at one point, there were two things that really clicked in to bring the peace. And one was when Jesus says, you are not responsible for the error. That's a big one. You are not responsible for the error, but you are responsible for accepting the correction for the error. And I was like, whoa, I'm not responsible for the error. I'm just responsible for accepting the correction. So that was one piece of the puzzle. And then the next one was, he said, do not project the error to time. That's another important piece. So I'm not responsible for the error, just responsible for accepting the correction. Do not project the error to time, because then it turns into the when question. When will I have peace? When will this be over? When will my heart finally feel the love and come to rest? You see, the when, that's the projecting to time. And we're told, it will take a focus, a desire, a direction, a determination to accept this correction. But that's the way it is in this world with anything, right?
You know what I really like about that, what you just said, is accept the correction. It takes all the responsibility. I don't have to do anything. I just accept the correction as it's already been given. There's so much of the time we're always thinking about, I'm going to be able to, wake up. I'm going to do it. I'm the one that's going to wake myself up. But to accept the correction is to accept what's already been given.
Yeah.
And just allow it. Just get out of the way and just allow it. With so much I hear and I feel at times that I have to do something. I've got to get busy and do something. But really, the less I do and just allow,
Yeah.
the better off.
Yeah.
I mean, then so I like that.
Yeah, that's it.
Accept the correction.
That takes the weight off of
Yeah.
you right away. You're not having to do.
I think one of the things I've gotten in these days that I've been here is that I was making an idol of the course. Yeah. And I don't think if accepting the correction, like that's the way, but I was like that was my salvation, like that was, so yeah, I had to treat it like something. I had to like I was there to find an oracle that was going to tell me, and yeah. So that's not, I don't think that's the way. Just as, accept the correction, live day by day, trusting, following guidance, and relax. Relax and enjoy and have fun, which I haven't been doing, by the way. So, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's beautiful just to have reminders of that. I know I was very good friends with Judy Scutch Whitson, who was given the task of publishing the course and carried on with that task over decades. And then she met her husband, William Whitson, and then they combined on so many things, translations of the course into many different languages. But I remember one time I was talking to Judy's daughter, Tamra, and she was saying, yeah, there was in the early years, Judy was publishing, but she did more traveling and speaking than in the later years. But at one point, Judy just invited Tamra to come with her to a lecture on A Course in Miracles. It was some university. And so Tamra went along, and she was in the audience, and she saw her mother up there in the front giving a talk on the Course, and people were oohing and awing and whispering, like it's a holy book. Holy book, holy book. And Tamara's looking around, and then the holy lady is giving a talk on the holy book. And Tamara is like, this is not right. This is not right. This should never be a book that's raised up or raising her. She said, that's my mom. She may be a lot of things, but holy. Oh, God. The holy lady's giving the holy talk about the holy book. So she just was pretty stirred up. And so afterwards, she talked to her mother, Judy, and Judy's like, well, how did you like it? She said, I didn't like it at all. Doesn't feel right. Feels bad energy. You up there talking and people calling you holy, and she says, you let people call you holy? What kind of thing is this? And in the book, and this and this and this. So she just pretty much gave Judy a pretty good lecture, gave her a piece of her mind. And Judy just listened. And then the next day, they went back, and Judy went up there again to the podium, and she took the course book off of the podium, and she put it on the floor, and she stood on the book and gave the whole talk, just to make the point that it's a state of mind that we're going for. It's what's inside of us. It's in our heart. It's not the book. And how easy it is to slip into Holy Scripture, different religions, the Holy Scripture, the Holy Water, the Holy City, the Holy Prophet. It's easy to slip over and to spiritualize matter. And yet the Course itself is teaching you have to bring the illusions to the truth. Don't try to bring the truth into the illusion. And it's great when you meet the people, you hear the stories, because there it is again, it's always a forgiveness. But Judy really didn't take what Tamara was saying as a criticism. She just took it to heart and went back to her room and prayed. What would you have me do? What would you have me say? Isn't it beautiful that it can all be based on inspiration, on what you feel in your heart, and it's never trying to prove someone wrong. You never have to prove anyone wrong to rest in this peace. It's just allowance, just allow it. And it's always there. It doesn't matter what the situation, you can just pray and just say, okay, be with me here, guide me, show me, lead me, and then there's that peace that's there. And that's what I like. The last scene, she's up there and Deidre's talking to her and saying, I still think I could still see a problem, but you could see that smile on Evelyn's face, and she wasn't really tuning into the words. She just started to gaze around at her family. Love. She was just feeling that relaxed feeling of love, and it didn't really matter what Deidre was saying then. You see, it had gone beyond the words, which they poke-phoned in her, even with the two rocks. First you see a rock in the desert, two rocks, got the thoughts of the rocks, back and forth, back and forth. But in the end, that was even about, I think it came down to, you have to let me go, the daughter saying. So we need to do that with ourselves. We have to let go of the expectations, not only of our brothers and sisters, but of the body, the person that we have believed we are. We need to just let go of the expectations and say, I got a bagel for you. Zero expectations. Yeah. Total acceptance, zero expectations.
The next time I have everything bagel, it's going to be like a whole new bagel.
You can have a little reminder there. Slice it and put whatever you want. Butter, peanut butter, cream cheese. Andy's like, cream cheese. That was funny in the one universe. They killed our cattle. He's like, half and half. And the cream cheese, yeah. Yeah, that's very funny. They really poke fun at that idea of lack and loss, because it just kept spinning around and around. Even the bagel was spinning there pretty fast, It's like, okay, like a vortex. Yeah. Well, thank you. That was a nice first time with that movie. Really funny. Aha! Thank you.